Today on EdYouWell, we're talking to Natalie Lehto, a powerhouse of inspiration who wears many hats: instructor, coach, endurance athlete, author, and owner of Within You, a fitness and lifestyle studio. A trained kinesiologist, Pilates instructor, and one of Canada's top-ranked fitness trainers, Natalie's passion for growth and supporting others shines through in everything she does. We love talking about what it means to be well and do well on EdYouWell. This is at the heart of what Natalie does, and today she's given us a peek into her world. Let's dive into the well.
Welcome to the EdYouWell podcast, a show created for, by, and with teachers. I'm Alex.
And I'm Chelsea. Our goal is to share insights and connect with fellow teachers on how to thrive both personally and professionally.
Join us as we dive deep into the well of information filled with relatable tips, practical discussions, and ideas that go way beyond the classroom walls. Let's be well
and do well together.
Well, I know Chelsea and I have been looking forward to this interview. Welcome, Natalie.
Thank you.
It's tough to coordinate all of our schedules.
We did it. Yes. 3 women with little people and jobs, and we do it. We make it work.
It was a feat. Yep.
That's what we're going to talk about here. So let's jump into it. Natalie, you are such a disciplined person. You have accomplished so much already, from endurance sports to writing a book to building your own studio. And on EdYouWell, we often talk about intentionality, goals, and taking care of yourself so that you can show up for others. Natalie, you do this every day in your own studio. Can you tell us about the work you do and how you use intention and focus to help you show up for yourself and your clients and your family?
So, yeah, what I do is wide range, but I work one-on-one with people, and I work largely in group settings. Now, I'm always a look ahead the day before kind of person. And I take that approach, one with my job, one with my own training, and with my family. So I always kind of look ahead, and then knowing, okay, let's say Chelsea. Tomorrow I have Chelsea. What are Chelsea's needs? Where's Chelsea at right now? And I come up with a rough game plan. And I kind of do that for my entire day. I have an idea with a group. Okay, this is what I am going to do, so that when I show up, I already have a plan. I already know their needs. I already know their abilities. But with all that said, I have learned over the last 20 years that planning is a piece of the pie, but a larger piece is being able to be fluid. So even though you have focus and intention, I need to show up, and let's say Chelsea walks into my room and her eyes are red, and I'm like, uh-oh, Chelsea had a bad night. She's not in a good place right now. So here's my game plan, but how am I going to pivot? And I do that constantly all day long, even in a group setting, meaning I come with a plan, I come with an overall focus, but then seeing maybe Alex just hurt herself or whatever it may be, then I need to be able to pivot and be fluid at the same time as being focused and having a clear plan.
Yes, we can relate to that.
We completely can relate to that. And just listening to you talk, like the way that I'm kind of conceptualizing it is when I think about it, Chelsea and I within our teaching, let's say, like, you do the work in advance. We have a calendar episode, by the way, where we talk about looking ahead at what is coming, and you plan, and that's where the work happens, right? But then the humanity comes in once you're in the space and you see the humans that are right in front of you, and you have to shift gears. And you know, I've never thought of the similarity. We have so much to learn from other people who are working in, you know, other industries and other areas. And so I find it fascinating that these are things that you concern yourself with too. So thank you for sharing that. That's interesting.
And to be honest, at the beginning, over 20 years ago when I started, I probably didn't have that fluid approach. That was something that I had to learn over time. I would say that when I first started, you go in, like most of us, no, this is how it should work. Here is what I've learned. Do the steps. And I would go through the steps. Now, was I a bad trainer then? No, it was just who I was learning and starting. But then as I've matured and I've grown in my own business and profession, then I have learned these tools of, oh my gosh, Nat, like, yes, planning is so important, and organizing and all of those aspects. But I loved, Alex, how you just said the humanizing point of it, like being fluid and being able to pivot, sorry, and being able to, you know, realize that we are all humans and we can't walk in and literally accomplish the task the way we want it all the time. So, and I would say that's been learned over the last 20 years for sure.
Yes, and that's the same within the classroom. You gain the experience and you really figure out that you kind of have to feed off of the energy in the room and the people in the room and try to sort of figure out
Mhm.
what they need in order to help them. So we all feel pretty strongly about being prepared. And so I just want to ask you if you have any rituals or essentials, maybe daily, and I know you run daily, that really help ground you and help set the stage for your days so that you can show up with the confidence and the energy that you need to sort of do what we just discussed. Show up for your clients, show up for your family. So how do you set the tone for your days?
Honestly, it is simply what you just stated. For me, it's running. And I hate to be that predictable because I know, I'm a runner and all this jazz, but it literally is what sets my stage every day. Um, and I mean, that took a long time for me to find that thing as well. It wasn't what I used to do when I was younger, but when I found that running gave me that, like, I know it's bizarre to say, but it gave me that calm. It gave me that, like, let out that whatever energy, frustration, nervousness, excitement, whatever it is, tired. Let's be honest, like in your 40s, tired would be like way up there, and having kids. Um, Running sets my stage. I wake up way too early and being outside. I need the fresh air and the movement. That's where I can come in and be like, okay, let's go.
We love both of those things, especially walking, getting up in the morning and doing some form of movement. For me, it is
Mhm.
absolutely essential. It reminds me of completing the stress cycle. So like you said, whatever
Mhm.
kind of emotions you're feeling, maybe frustration, maybe overwhelm, the number one thing to do is physical activity. And I read that in the book Burnout by Emily and Amelia Nagoski. And they said that's the number one thing you could do is do physical activity, and then you complete the stress cycle. So you're not just leaving things hanging,
Mhm.
you're really working through that.
Yeah, and so speaking of running, and I am not a runner, what advice would you give to teachers who are running on empty? Because we've talked in the
Mm.
episodes a lot about the fact that we know how good it is for us to, get in the movement, get in the exercise. There is that time commitment
Mhm.
that exists with that. But for me personally, it's more the creating the energy to be able to make that happen because I know it feeds me and gives me more energy. So, what advice do you have for those teachers?
I feel like this might not be a popular answer. Okay, so I hope it comes off with kindness and love and not directness. But I'm often asked, well, I just don't have the motivation. How do you have the motivation? I'm too tired. I'm not motivated to do it. I'm too exhausted. Okay, things that I hear literally every day. Now, what I try my best to say as calmly and positively as I can is you cannot wait for motivation. You cannot wait for it. That's not how motivation actually works. When I hear burnout, and then to Chelsea's fact, right, like 2 minutes ago about exercise being number one to complete that stress burnout cycle, the movement is key. Fresh air, those two things alone are key. So you're exhausted. You cannot even fathom putting this in your day because you don't have the energy. You're not motivated. This is when you need to just schedule it, plan it. You guys are in the teaching world, that is top of your game. That is your lingo, right? So plan it. Do not make it an option, just like you showing up for your students in your class. It is part of your workday. You can say at lunch, because right, everybody has lunch break or some form of break. I am going to literally walk outside the perimeter of the school, get fresh air, -40, +40, whatever it is. I'm going to promise myself at lunch, I don't care how tired I am building that into my day. And that's where I would just say to start. Not with the intention of it being more than that. Sometimes it doesn't need to be more. Everybody thinks, okay, I'm going to start with a walk run of and I'm going to build. You don't always need to build. What if it is just every day you promise yourself a loop of fresh air around the school partway in? Don't be motivated or don't wait for motivation for it to happen. Just plan it and execute.
It's almost that action first and then getting the momentum and building off of that. Or like you're saying, not building. Because I do feel like for me personally, when I first started going into, getting healthy, because to your point earlier, we can't wait, because if we wait, there's all this stuff that's happening within our bodies, right? It's important to do what we can now. But for me, there was a time where I felt like everything had to be just right for me to be. And then I visualized myself being this top notch, and anything less than that wasn't good enough. So there's that mental piece too that I see where, Natalie, when I'm listening to you talk about running, that is the epitome of fitness. But to me, there's a reframe that has to happen within someone who's starting, where it's like, no, I'm getting outside, getting the air, and I'm going for a saunter. And any movement is good versus no movement, right?
100%. Like, exactly. There's this global outlook on all or nothing. And we hear it all the time, but I don't have an hour. And I'll look at people, I'm like, okay, well then I can't do it. Or can you go against your wall and do 10 push-ups and give me 20 jumping jacks and call it a day? And they're like, well, yeah. All right, well, just do that. Because you could do that, or you could do nothing, or you could do an hour. So like, we need to get away from these notions and ideas of what it has to be. And there's so much out there. Well, I've heard that if you're menopause, you should be doing this much weightlifting, this much, this and all. Or what can you do? Find what you can do that will be realistic for your life and your day. And if it's not what they're saying on social media, what will be realistic for you now?
Look at the power, Chelsea, of someone who's an expert in her field, giving me, there's a level of permission that just happened there for me to sometimes be a little more basic in my approach. And I'm good with that, but it means me doing it versus me doing nothing. So I really appreciate that feedback. And
love that.
My guess though, is that's learned too over time, just like the last point that we were talking about, like over time, these are things in maturity, in growth, in experience that you learn to see differently. And I appreciate that.
I watch a lot in group settings. One that is huge right now. Everybody, they've got their watch. Okay, class is starting, go. And then class is done. Well, we only did 47 minutes today instead of 50. And I'm just like, smile. I say, well, you could do a 3-minute wall set if you'd like to finish off your 50 to shut your watch off. Or you can realize that the 47 you did do was quality. Like, even these gadgets and these things that we encounter are so linear and very packaged. And so what I've learned to help clients over the years is that notion of little bits, and it doesn't have to be Chelsea's doing and what I'm doing and Alice are doing do not have to be the same thing to all mean that we're our own version of healthy. I just think we need to stop listening to everybody else and start just doing what feels good and what works for you. That's your version of healthy.
Absolutely. And I think that's something that we need to apply in the classroom as well. So we've talked about a phys ed setting. And Natalie, you might not remember this, but you once told me something that stuck with me. You had said that when you were going into schools to instruct fitness, it felt different than being in your studio, of course. In the studio, people chose to be there. They sort of come there with a goal, right? But in schools, not every student is willing to, let's say, participate or get involved with physical activity. So can you tell us a little bit about what you found to be challenging when you went into schools to do, say, yoga or Pilates or fitness?
Yeah. Well, number one, the huge difference, I think, as you just mentioned, um, is that the teacher is making them do it, have brought me in to show them something new where most of those kids could care less what I have to offer at that moment, and that in the younger ages especially, right? Where people that come into the studio are seeking me or wanting me, are they're paying, it's their money. So there's a lot more of an investment for it and different energy. Like they're excited to be there, happy to be there versus the kids. That would be the absolute biggest challenge for sure.
And so what did you do when you noticed that with the kids?
Um, Over time, I think I changed a lot of my language. And instead of coming in and just being like, I often get asked to do Pilates in schools, probably because that's something that, not a lot of teachers would be trained in. So that's usually what I get asked to do. So I started coming in with a little bit more of like an understanding of what Pilates is. And then I realized I don't have to be their strict teacher. I don't have to be marking these kids. So I can add more elements of fun than I think originally I was going in with, thinking that I had to be so, maybe solid and stern and the teachers are watching me and I felt very constricted. But then over time I realized, no, I have to make this a little interesting and fun for those kids who might never or have had the opportunity to even try these sort of different exercise systems, right? So changing my tone, changing my language, and adding a little bit more positive energy of like, hey, you know what? I know that this is might be boring to you or not easy, but can you just try this? See if you can do this, and then they'd be like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll try it. I found that is more well received.
That is a luxury that you have because you have that secondary adult who essentially is responsible for the tone of the space and the component of classroom management. But, Natalie, that's same with us. Like when I go in and, I'm a little more relaxed and I can, again, to go with the flow and not be rigid like our conversation earlier in this conversation. I find it's like you get more bees with honey. You're more human when you
Yeah.
don't go in so hard. I mean, for us, the challenge is sometimes you have to reset a tone that's gone a little bit too awry. And then you're just always trying to find that balance, just like with health. You're going with the flow, but you also have to go in with a plan and a level of structure and a level of serious tone so things don't get away from you. But we also have that luxury to be able to access that part of our personality. And I find that it's effective when I do that, when I cool it up a bit or relax a bit.
Although it's funny as you're talking, Alex, but I also realized that I used to go in and it was like it's like I had two different approaches, but one, I used to go in thinking that I needed those kids to like me. Like I want them to like me. I don't want to be this mean like Mrs. Lehto coming in to teach Pilates. And then it became frustrating. Kids aren't listening. Everybody's like things always seemed out of control. I would leave often frustrated at the experience instead of leaving going, "Oh, that was fun." So then I came in, even though I just said to you a little more fun, a little more relaxed, but then I learned to find my voice and speak up because I was like, no, sorry. And I'm not going to continue until the room is quiet. So I found this like, okay, I'm going to be a little bit more on the fun edge, but I'm not going to let this classroom go out of control. Like no one's going to be talking over me. And I often will say, can you guys hear me? Can you hear me? Because this is as loud as I'm going to talk. So if you can't hear me, then you're going to have to stop talking yourself. So it's like I need to be the two, right? You need to go in. I think it is a balance. Again, it's a balance.
It is. The Goldilocks. You have to find that spot. You have to find that balance. That's right. Yeah.
Find the right porridge, man.
Okay, let's get into talking about your memoir. So, among everything that you're doing, you have managed to write and publish an entire book, like The Glide of a Dragonfly. Natalie, your book is a powerful story. You take us through your experience at the Boston Marathon bombing and share openly about the PTSD, health struggles, and personal losses you faced in the years that followed. What really stands out is the philosophy that you've developed of finishing strong through whatever life throws at you. I want to ask you about the feelings that you talked about in your book a lot: guilt, fear, and anger. That's a lot of vulnerability that you have in there. And I'm just wondering, what was it like for you to write about these things? How was that experience for you?
When I was writing, it felt like natural. I was by myself. I could grab my book. I would sit on the lawn at camp or sit in my bedroom at home, and I could just be as raw and real as I needed to be. And that felt good because I hope this makes sense, but everything from Boston on just stayed up here, up in my brain. And talking was not something that I like to do. I don't like to talk to a lot of people about Boston. I don't like to open up about that. So writing felt like a safe place to do so. And once I started actually putting my words out on a piece of paper, it was like this weird like filter that things just started clearing out of my head. And I felt like for the first time, I was like, oh my God, it's like I could breathe up there again. Not to say that lots of these thoughts don't still swarm around, but relief was almost like instant as soon as I started writing and just had that outlet to put it out, get it out of my head.
Interesting. So I know for me, I have outlets. Mine would be talking, and getting it out of the head and onto either paper in list form or through conversation. It removes it, and it's a great thing. When I put it on paper, it's on paper and it stays there. When I then share it out, I have to worry about other people's reactions to me. And I find that can create a whole other thing that kind of needs to be dealt with. Is that something that, adds a challenge? Like, it's one thing to write it on paper. It's another for, let's say, people to read it, especially people that we know and care about, let's say.
Alex, you just jumped into my head.
Sorry.
So meaning you just described a lot of big feelings over the last few years. So I wrote, and I always wrote with this secret goal of like, you know what, maybe one day I would share this. And it actually started with maybe one day I would share this with the family members that came to Boston with me. My plan was to actually just clean it up, write it up, and give it to that group of people. When it became bigger and when I had that moment of like, oh, okay, maybe I'm actually going to give it to more than my family, I felt okay with that. And I was like, yep, I don't know how to describe this, but I need to do this. And I put it out there. And I spent 9 months without a single person except for Andrew and my mom knowing what I was doing. Sorry, Andrew's my husband. Nobody else knew that I was going through this process. So when I published the book, everyone was like, what's happening here? Again, I was only thinking like of myself and letting it out, sharing it. Soon as it hit the stands and I had that first person read it, I lost it. Oh my God, what have I done? It became too real, too scary. Now I shared. Whoa, wait a second, guys. I was sharing. I did not want people to talk to me about it. I don't want to listen to what their feelings or thoughts were. I don't want any more questions. Like, whoa, wait a second. I did my job. So the last 3 years set me back quite a bit. Like the first year was so hard because all of a sudden everybody's asking you, everybody's talking, everybody's bringing things up. And I was like, this was not what I wanted. I just wanted to put it out there until only recently, I would say the last few months, where I realized that was probably what I needed. is to get it out there. And as scary as it is, now it's making me face things differently and have to be a little bit more accountable to maybe how I'm feeling. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense. And
Okay.
so, I mean, I have to say, like, from the heart in reading this book, and I don't know you, so right, I have a level of separation. First off, there's all these allusions to where we live in the region that we live. And it's really cool reading through and hitting points where it's like, I know where that is. I've been there. But the other piece is that any big thing that you write about in this book, you later on use to move through another big thing. And progressively, those big things are really cool accomplishments and really cool experiences that people can use as a springboard when things are hard. Because like running an Ironman marathon in a very scary body of water with huge waves, you're pulling from other things to get, to the next step. And as a reader, obviously I have no idea what's going to happen. And I was so relieved and so, I don't know, excited and inspired every time that, you rode one of those big waves. And there's lots of big waves in this book, literal and figuratively. And
yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what everything is about, is like learning from something. And it's unfortunate that we learn maybe more from the bad or the sad or the hard. I think that's when lessons happen. It's like letting your kid fall and then trying your hardest not to pick them up unless they really need your help, without them trying first, because then they'll remember the next time. And to your point, Alex, like even up to Boston, what got me to Boston were the 20 years before that of all my ups and downs and challenges that just over time you build up that toolbox of what you're going to use in a hard situation. And then you get to another experience. But I would have to say the one huge thing I have learned over time, especially since publishing the book and when I've been asked to do some talks, everybody wants to know what is the exact recipe to moving on and being better, and what helps you keep moving forward. And my answer is there's literally not one recipe. And sometimes I use a tool that works for me today. And then tomorrow something happens and I use that tool and I'm like, okay, my tool's not working. What the hell? My tool's not working. And then you're like, you draw on another tool and you try it. Like, it's just never a concrete recipe. And it's never an actual, okay, I'm good, let's move on. Like, it doesn't work like that. So you're constantly trying new tools and adjusting and pivoting again, just like we talked about right at the beginning.
Yeah.
It literally is that, right? And I think, I would assume people think I'm a low type A, and I think some of us are very planner, plan, execute, check the boxes. So learning this notion of pivoting and being okay with change, hence the Dragonfly, is something that I've had to learn and continue to learn over time.
I love your mention of the toolbox and or the toolkit and Chelsea and I have talked about that a fair bit, and there's tools that I mocked when I was younger that I would never have used. I was way too cool, that I've recently ended up being reintroduced to and been like, my God, these are life changing. So I love how you said that there's like an evolution basically, and you have to have multiple tools in the kit so that when one isn't working, you have something else to grab. But also, there's thousands of tools that are out there and to be discovered and rediscovered. And I think that is one of the gifts of, let's say, you sharing in your book, because I got tools from your book. Okay. Through the conversation that we're having right now, I'm getting tools. I get tools from you today. I get tools from Chelsea, when we talk all the time, and from all of my other colleagues and friends. And, thank goodness there's so many tools, because there's so many beautiful problems to be had out there in the world. So.
Yeah. Like, what boots are you going to wear with baggy jeans?
That was the
Right? There you
conversation
go.
that the listeners missed earlier. You know, it's a big stress for us three.
Big problem.
Big problem.
No, but there is a lot in your book that I think we can all relate to. And I know that we all have very difficult experiences in our lives, you know, and you're right. It is different for everyone how we move through those. And I'm just going to share a tool I learned when I was getting help through a difficult time in my life. Natalie, in your book, you talk about the anger you felt after your experience. Like when you're around people and they're having their everyday conversations, right?
Mhm.
And you're like, but I can't think of anything else but what's going on in my head right now. And I was in the staff room one day. I had come back after a difficult time and everybody was talking about paint colors. Why are they talking about this? Is unacceptable. I did not say that. It had nothing to do with them at all. It made total sense to talk about paint colors in the staff room. So I had to remove myself from that situation. And I later told my counselor about this. I shared my feelings. And he just said something that has really helped me every day in my life. He said, I want you to imagine right now that you're able to sit around the table and talk about paint colors. Or you're able to wake up in the morning and think about, what am I having for lunch today? Or what am I cooking for dinner? What am I going to wear? What am I planning for my first period class today? You know, and I want you to think about how that would feel. And I thought about it and I thought, that's all I want to think about. I just want to think about those everyday things and get back to that. And it gave me this goal to just move towards that and just to know that one day that is what I'm going to think about every day. I'm going to move through this. And then it gave me also this like completely newfound gratitude, which I live with every day. Every day, you know, when I think, oh my gosh, I got to pack a lunch. I'm like, yay, this is okay. This is what I want to be thinking about today, you know? So it's just really helpful for me for gratitude in my life and moving through tough situations. Like you'll get there, right?
I love that. That's a great. I'm going to think about that paint color too. Like that's awesome. Because it's also that simple reminder too that hard times, when you have a hard time, a difficult time, sad time, and then after when you've worked through it and you're on the other side, it doesn't mean you're not going to have another one. So there's going to be another one. Sometimes they just go like this and they like pile on top. So it's remembering though that thing lasts forever and you're going to be able to talk about paint someday. Might not be today or tomorrow, but maybe in a year you're going to be sitting at that table talking about paint and someone else is going to walk in going, why the hell are they talking about paint?
Yeah, exactly. And that's something we have to think about every day with the people that all of us work with, that we go in there with that mindset.
You know, large classes of students where, you know, you have no idea that's something that you've brought up. So I guess for me with that is that, you know, never be surprised by that moment when it's brought to your attention and then be able to pivot to be able to deal in that moment in that empathetic way and know that paint chips can be something that, you know, destroys someone inside for those 10, 15 minutes and creates rage or like deep sadness. And there's also a level of gift in having been through some things because, you know, Chelsea, to your point, you know, there's a relatability. Like if I ever share with you that I'm mad about people talking about mine is marble countertops or granite countertops. I don't know, it always bothers me. And, you know, if I ever share that with you, I know that I'm going to get a level of empathy. So, I mean, there's that gift in that having experiences in life can make you a really good support for someone else. If someone shows up to the class with the teary eyes, I know you get it. And I know you know some ways of reacting that will give that person a level of solace. And that's so important.
And this is the other thing is maybe for you, the paint, we're going to use the paint just because we're on it, was huge. But then to someone else, like people can't tell you that your problem isn't big enough. And honestly, something that really bothers me a lot is when I hear, oh, I know, but I don't have as bad as blah, blah, blah. Okay. But it's not good for you. You're upset about it. So it doesn't matter that maybe Chelsea's problem may on the outside appear bigger, but for you, this is your problem. So the comparing of people's issues or problems or what makes them upset and what doesn't, who are we to say or who are we to quantify that? That's what upsets me. Especially walking away from the situation in Boston made me realize we all came home to Canada and all of us have a different level of reaction to it. I can't hear trains downtown without having an actual physical reaction to this day. Would my husband, would my father-in-law, would my dad, they might not even think twice about it. We all came from the same experience. Why should someone say that I shouldn't feel that way or that they should feel that way? And that I find is something that's sometimes really hard to swallow. But we need to be aware of that, right?
Natalie, how does one respond to something that is so profound? So I just have to say, I hear it. And once again, another instrument to be used in the spaces that we get the honor and privilege to be in with other people who are humans, so therefore have many different experiences, that will have the opportunity to use that skill of not looking at people's problems or moments in a comparative way, but in a way that is just dealing with exactly what is in front of you.
Yes.
All right. So, Natalie, we would love to hear some Natalie style tips. What are the best go-to wellness ideas for teachers specifically? Because that's our audience.
Okay, number one is I'll say you as the individual, as the teacher, needs to define in your heart what wellness means. I think that's the first thing, is what does your wellness mean to you? And the why. I find when I meet clients a lot for the first time and they tell me, well, I'd like this and I want that. And then, okay, I'll listen. And then I said, why? Like, why do you want those? Did somebody else tell you should? Do you want to? Like, those are really important. So what is it? Why is it important to you? Do you want it? And then if I could give the teacher in the day, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier, because before coming onto this podcast, I did think about teaching and health and movement. Honestly, fresh air. You guys are in a school from 9 to 3. The kids go out for breaks 3 times a day. You guys have shared duties, I believe, right? When you go out, when you don't, who does? Why not make it a priority that every day you get fresh air? 1 time a day, get outside. And if you don't want to walk around that block, like I had originally kind of mentioned could be a good idea, get outside, stand in the parking lot, stand in front of the office, give yourself 2-3 minutes, get the fresh air, get maybe the sunshine, maybe not in this neck of the woods. But I would say fresh air would be my biggest wellness tip for teachers at school in the day.
Exactly. Yeah. How do we stay energized? How do we reset if we're feeling overwhelmed? And I think you're right. That's number one. Get out there, get moving, get separated from what you're doing so that you can clear your mind.
My day is very different from your day in terms of hours. And, I teach at 6, I'm done at 8 p.m. It's odd, bizarre, but the three of us are constantly in charge of being the energy, being the positive force, being the teacher, instructing, all of those things. So I often, if I have like 6 clients in a row, I will just walk outside for a second, open the door. I'll just take a little moment where I'm not in the thing, just for a moment or two. And then when you just have that little separation that you just said, Chelsea, sometimes when you're ready to go, we can't all like literally be on all the time without that little tiny break.
Yeah. And big breaks. We like those.
Yeah. I often
right.
see lots of teachers like walking on their lunch, or people. I work my studio is across from T-Baytel. I see them constantly, runners on, and you see them do like, I'll walk around the block to go back to their office. Like, doesn't have, again, Alex, like we said earlier, doesn't have to be a time thing, doesn't have to be a big thing. You're like, oh my God, I have it 7 minutes. Let's go.
Yes. Small actions add up to big results. And that's something that's taken me a long time to realize. And that applies to all areas in life. They add up. You could do one really big thing one day. It's not going to have the same results as consistent, constant. So yeah, those quick walks make a difference.
Quality wins over quantity all the time. That's my 2 cents. 10 cents, 30 cents.
6, 7 cents. No,
6, 7.
6, 7.
Yeah.
That'll be, by the time this airs, no one's going to know what that means anymore. It doesn't matter, Natalie. Does not matter.
That's right. It'll be old news.
To be honest, I can't believe it's hanging on as long as it is, though.
It's been
Are we
doing
still
well.
doing it? Holy
Still doing
moly.
it.
Oh, big time. Yeah, it's interrupting every day, but we're going with the flow and we're just, just dealing with
Gotta
it.
pivot.
Gotta
Gotta
pivot.
pivot.
Okay, as we wrap up this episode, Natalie, you mentioned finishing strong in your book. What does finishing strong mean to you? And do you apply this idea to other areas of your life?
Yes, I do. To me, no matter how hard the journey is, and we'll put it to running, but it applies to work, it applies to so many situations in our life. However hard the journey is, right near the end, just push up your chest, pump, come in hard, strong, happy, because you've accomplished it, because you've achieved it, because you crossed that difficult moment. Sorry, I'm rambling, but if you did read the book, you'll know that Andrew proposed to me at the end of the finish line at a marathon. And bizarre, right? Everyone's like, what? But he had asked me a long time ago, what was my favorite thing about a marathon? And I said, the finish line. And he laughed. I go, no, not because I'm done, because I love the training. I love the racing. I love the moments where I think, what am I doing? I hate this. My toes are falling off. I'm bleeding. I'm exhausted, all that. But the finish line to me is like, oh my God, I just did it. Even though I just limped my way, or I was crying over there, or I broke something, I finished it. And that moment is always what actually makes me keep going. Some mornings when I wake up and my alarm goes off at 5 and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so tired. I am like, why are you waking up? It's because you know what the feelings at the end are. And if you can approach that and get to that point and just at the end, be proud of that and own it, to me, that's finishing strong. Even if I was limping the whole other 25 miles, 26, you are there. Do it. Finish strong.
That means something different for everyone. Yeah, it does, depending on what you're doing.
Could be a project. Or if you didn't have a good experience, you're finished. All right, what are we going to learn from this?
Yeah.
So no matter what, good or bad, finish strong because you're walking away with something.
It's honoring the fact that you showed up and you kept on showing up, even though your feet were bleeding, even though, right? And you look back, no, it's not all perfect. Here's what I learned and what I might change, but it's that mindset piece and that showing up piece. And, there's moments that I've had in my life where I don't think I showed up as much as I probably was very capable of showing up. And it's kind of a mindset thing. And I'm learning.
And I just, when I'm listening to you two and knowing that you're teachers and that this is an educational piece, when you're younger, when you had those projects and you ran out of paper or your printer was broken and then your computer broke and everything goes wrong, but it's due the next day. And then you lost a piece that you wrote and it's just a disaster. But then by 9 a.m. at 8:50, you put in your little binder, you got it all pretty, you got your name on it, and you're smile and hand it in. You're like, oh my God, I did it. It's that to me is that putting the sticker on with this pretty little colored book, and you're smile. That's your finish strong. And you hand it in, and then after you're like, oh my God, I did that. Holy, how did I do that? But it might have been a messy journey, but you handed it in, you got it in on time, and check.
But the messy is where the learning is, and it's progress, not perfection. And Chelsea, I'm going to speak for me, but I don't think you're perfect either. Perfect is the enemy of the good, and neither of us are perfect.
That's right.
Yeah.
Perfect's boring. We don't want to be perfect. That's boring. We
no.
want to be imperfect and keep learning.
Well, to the word boring, this conversation would have been boring if we all came from perfect moments, right?
That's
what would be the
right.
point?
Absolutely.
All right, Natalie. Well, I hate to put you on the spot, but at the end of every episode, we give a takeaway from the conversation. So, if you don't mind, what is your takeaway?
Mine, hands down, is paint colors. I love that because for me, it's that reminder of when things are crummy to walk away and know that one day you can be back to that spot of being able to talk about paint colors without the hard, sad, strong emotions you might have felt in that particular day. And I love that. The sun will always come up tomorrow kind of made me think in the back of my head.
Yes. And mine is take that action, take those steps, take those healing steps whenever you can, take those steps outside when you need to, take action because that's what's going to spur the motivation that you need.
And mine is going to be that a fitness expert just basically told me that it's okay to start where you are and be in the moment that you're in and do the exercise that works for you but to do it, don't wait. So and then a whole bunch of other takeaways. How do we sum up this episode in 3 takeaways, Chelsea? Because as I was saying it, I'm like, and this and that and this and that. There was a lot of well filling in this conversation.
A lot of well filling. Yeah, my well is full again.
I feel like I could talk to you guys for, I honestly looked at the time. I'm like, what? How has it been that long? I honestly really enjoyed chatting with you girls and love your different outlooks. So I loved it. I would chat with you guys again.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom, Natalie, and your story. Your ability to help others rise while continuing to do your own work is truly inspiring. Can you tell us where we can find you and where we can find your book?
Oh, thank you. WithinYou.ca is my business website. I'm on social media. Within You, it's WithinYou.tbay on Instagram, Facebook. All of my information is on the website. And then my book is actually excitingly on audio. So it's on Audible. And it's online through Amazon and all those outlets. And then locally in Thunder Bay, there's so many places that have been generous to be able to house my book for sale. Fresh Air, George's Market, Wanson, Kitchen Nook. I'm lucky that it's kind of plastered all over the city. Or just reach out to me. I'm happy to get you a copy.
Thanks for listening to the EdYouWell podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a friend, subscribe, and leave a positive review. It helps others to find us.
Follow us on Instagram and Pinterest to help spread the word. For more inspiration, tips, and book recommendations, just head to the show notes and join the EdYouWell newsletter today. Until next time, be well
and do well.